today's episode of Why I Never Work on My Own Datsun, we find out why I work on my buddy Yuji's AE86 Hatch with a 20 valve swap and get it running for the first time in 5 years for free. Let's get into it. This is an 86 Toyota Corolla. This is what I used to own. And I traded my 86 Toyota Corolla for my 510 way back in the day. And ever since then, I have actually been craving to work on one of these, even though this one isn't mine. I've been desperately wanting to work on a classic Toyota since I got rid of them. Now this car is very special. It belongs to my good friend, Yuji.
How you doing?
Yuji owns this beautiful, gorgeous car and has been neglecting it for the past couple years. Well, Yuji has a really amazing story, background, history on this thing, and we'll probably get into that a little later. This car is going to be revived very soon, and I'm so excited to work on it. So fast forward to today, the next day. We got an 86 in their garage, and it's not mine. Let me clarify that from the start. This is not my car. This belongs to my friend Yuji, and Yuji has a unique story. He's an incredibly giving person, an incredibly nice person, and he's always doing stuff for others. Every time I've talked to him, he's always trying to give me something, or always trying to, here, let me help you with something. Hey, let me try to, whatever. And we were talking about cars because we have another hobby in common. He had mentioned he had an 86 and that it wasn't running. And I was like, well, what's wrong with it? He goes, all I need to do is just drop the fuel tank. And no, it stopped running one day. And I was like, okay, well, that sounds easy enough. Like, bring it to my house, let's do it, And he's like, oh, I'll do it later. And I started kind of prying into why he wouldn't do it. And it turns out he used to work on this car with his friend. And his friend unfortunately passed, and ever since then Yuji has kind of felt down or kind of lost motivation because he's not working on it with his friend anymore. And I that pulls at my heartstrings because I lost my best friend. For the same kind of reason that I'm working on this is the same reason why I don't work on my 510. I don't have motivation, and so doing little accomplishments like on this car is gonna help me with mine. Getting this thing running and getting that little satisfaction of, yes, I got this beautiful, beautiful car running and driving again is gonna give me the little push I need for my car. Without further ado, let's get cracking on this thing. So when I talked to Yuji, he said that he wanted to drop the fuel tank because the last time he drove it, which was about 4 years ago, he had put a fresh full tank of fuel in there. And as he was driving it, it completely stopped running and everything on the side of the road. Now, what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna figure out what's going on with the fuel system. Why did the engine shut off? And it wasn't like a rod knock or a low compression. It was just a cut. So we think that there's gonna be something wrong with the fuel system. I know that he had replaced the fuel filter in here, but we are going to kind of tear into this and just start fresh and figure out what's going on. We do have a spare fuel pump. We do have all the means to clean all the fuel lines and everything. What we're gonna do now is we're going to do the basic diagnostic and figure out why, if there's even getting fuel from the tank to the engine. Let's get on to that. Before we get into the fuel system of this car, we actually need to remove the hood because it is actually badly damaged. I guess the guy he bought it from put this strut tower brace on and didn't check to see if it would clear the reinforcements of the carbon fiber hood, and so when they closed it, it just completely destroyed it. Granted, it's an NRG, so we have no problem yanking that off. He did order a new Carbon whatever, carbon fiber hood to replace this one with. So this one will be coming off. It'll be a little easier to record and a little easier to work on. So let's get into that. So the engine cranked, but there's no fuel or no spark potentially. So now what we need to do is we need to figure out if there's no fuel getting to the fuel rail or if there's no spark. What we're gonna do is we're gonna disconnect some of the stuff over here and see if we can find the main fuel inlet and see if it's easy enough to open up and maybe get some fuel spraying. So I did locate the fuel return line. I don't know if you guys can see that, but bone dry in there. I was have to crank it for 10 seconds or so. That gives me the indication that either A, the fuel line going to the fuel filter is clogged, or B, the fuel pump itself doesn't work. I guess the next step for me is to now start getting ready to drop the tank and everything. So let's go from there. So when dropping your fuel tank, especially after you filled it up with 10 gallons of fresh 91, you want to actually drain all the fuel out. And this little nifty device I got from Nap Auto Parts for like 20 bucks. It helps suck all of the fuel out of the fuel tank. The ball end guy, and you take this, you put it inside your fuel tank. The other end, put it inside your jerry can. And then what you do is you actually stick this all the way down. There we go. So what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna take our AC to DC converter, 12.4 volts. That should be plenty. I assume because this guy's on the body of the fuel pump, that will be our negative, which is white with black. Blue will be our positive. And what we will do is so the fuel pump works, but it doesn't look like it works super well. We're gonna replace the fuel pump just because we're already here. We're already gonna replace it. We have a brand new one. And then from there, we are gonna blow some air into the lines of the car, ensure there's not a clogged line. From there, we'll continue diagnosing and see what happens. So we got the fuel tank back in, got everything kind of hooked back up, wiring all taken care of, filler neck back in. We did put a little bit of fuel in there, like I said, just to test fuel pump outside of the car. Bolted everything back in. Yuji did bring me a new battery. It's brand new, hopped in my yellow top, because we need to test and make sure that fuel is getting past the fuel rail. Our little Gatorade bottle. Place this guy down here, somewhere. Disconnect the fuel return. Propped it up, so the fuel line's in there. And there should be enough fuel to at least bump this, prime the system real quick. Just maybe get it started. Let's find out. Let's hook the fuel return back up because we did hear it turn over a little bit. So, yep, a little bit of fuel in the fuel return, and now they just spilled on the floor. Put the fuel return back on. I need to grab my pliers to actually put that clamp back on, and then we're gonna start it up and see if we can take it around the block. So fast forward until Monday, Labor Day, just about 4 days from that last video that you saw the 86 running. The problem was, it wasn't even the O2. It wasn't the AFM, wasn't a TPS, wasn't anything even mechanical at all. Fuel pump, we found out, actually wasn't even the issue. And it took me a couple days to figure this out, so that's why I didn't actually record anything. My new friend Mike and I spent a couple hours last night getting this all figured out, and we actually found out that it was the fuel pump itself wasn't actually delivering fuel past the priming stage. When you put the key in the on position, when you open the AFM, this guy right here, when you open up this door, it's supposed to actually signal the fuel pump to turn on, which is supposed to feed the fuel rail, pressurize it, and so on and so forth, and run from then on. As the door opens, it sends fuel, etc., etc. Well, the problem was, after the initial startup, what you would hear is it would start up perfectly fine because it would get enough fuel to start up and run, but then it would just fall on its face. And so I always thought it was like a sensor issue between the TPS or the O2 or the AFM, and it turned out to be none of that, and it actually turned out to be something super simple. So this car, as you know, does not have the stock engine, and actually, so there's fuel pump relays right here, and unfortunately there is a jumper cable right about there. Makes it so the fuel pump is actually now a key on. So when you actually turn on the key, it runs the fan, it runs the fuel pump as a designated on. It's not a direct wire, but it actually runs through the relay, but now it's a key on instead of an AFM on. So now we found out that connection was bad, kind of cleaned it up. I still need to solder it, but we did find out it did fix the issue. Now we can get in here, turn it on. Starts right up. Beautiful. So now the silver top runs great. No worries whatsoever. Getting this thing to run was probably the first step in the little process, little gift I have for my buddy Yuji. Getting it to run, yeah, that's cool and all, but we want to upgrade some stuff. Figuring out that little problem is one of many little things that we wanted to get done. Next, I think we're gonna do reinforcement here and there, like, you know, strut braces and stuff like that. I think we're gonna replace the wheels and tires and stuff, which is nothing super hardcore and mechanical, but it's very satisfying to do. I think we're also gonna actually convert this power steering rack to an actual proper manual rack. We might do some body work on the rear trunk spoiler to actually do like a little duck fin and stuff like that. But other than that, I just kind of want to give you guys an update as you gotta run it. It's the first time this thing has ran and drove and everything in like 5 years. I'm so simple and dumb, and I'm really happy that I, as well as my friend Mike and all my other friends, Ty, could help figure out. It's like, we figured this out and we got it running just from our friend Yuji. So I guess that's kind of really it for this video. If you guys like this, you know what to do. If you want to see more of this, definitely let me know down in the comments. If you guys want to see more of the Datsun, let me know. Anyways, we'll catch you guys next time on part 2 of what we're going to be doing with this. All right, have a good one. So what'd you think?
That was fun. That was fun. It's weird to like look at it and go, oh shit, there's no hood. I saw hose flapping in the wind.
Yeah, the throttle cable. That's what I saw the other day too.